All right, so in this video, we are going to introduce polynomials. Now, you've actually really already seen polynomials. You've been working with polynomials for a really long time. It's just we label it different because you can name a different polynomial depending on the degree, the number of terms. So like a linear function is a polynomial, okay? But it's just it's a polynomial with degree 1, okay? Like a quadratic is a polynomial function, but it's a polynomial function of degree 2, and it just has a special name. So is a cubic, okay? And we're going to go over all of that, okay? So first I want to go over a couple of definitions, okay, because we're going to be using these words a lot. A term in math is either a single number or variable, okay? That is broken up, that is separated it is separated by addition or subtraction, okay? So you can multiply and still be in the same term, but as soon as you add or subtract, you go to a different term. So one term would be 2x, that's a term. 3 is a term. 4x squared is a term, okay? All right, now if I was to put like adding and subtracting, you would say that's 3 terms right there, okay? All right, a coefficient, you've heard this word before, okay? But a coefficient is a number used to multiply a variable. So basically, it's the number in front of your variable. And if the variable doesn't have a number in front of it, so variables with no numbers, so variables with no number have a coefficient of 1. The coefficient is 1. Handwriting's really bad. Okay, so if there's no number in front of that variable, you would say it has a coefficient of 1, all right? So look at these examples. I want to know the coefficient here of 9x cubed. Well, it's going to be 9. What's the coefficient here? It's the number in front of your variable. So 3 is not it. It's going to be 4, okay? All right, a constant, okay? A constant is a fixed value, okay? So a constant is a fixed value, okay? It's the number without a variable. Okay? So here, my constant would be 7. Here, my constant would be 2. Okay? It's the number without a variable. All right? So, those are words that you've seen before that I wanted to review. So now let's go on to what a polynomial is. So I'm going to give you the way you're going to understand it, okay, the definition of a polynomial. So a polynomial is just an expression or an equation that has multiple terms, okay, because so the word poly, why isn't it letting me? Here we go. So the word poly means many, okay, so it's just something that's formed of many terms is really what it is. Okay, now there are a few stipulations with being a polynomial, okay? So a polynomial, it means many. So it really just means many terms, okay? Now there's your math definition, which is down here, okay? But again, let's talk about it in the way we understand, okay? So, let me scroll. So there are a few things that a polynomial can't have. Okay, so a polynomial cannot have a negative exponent. Okay, so the nots of a polynomial cannot have a negative exponent. Okay, your variable cannot be in the denominator. Okay, all right, but you can have constants, you can have variables, but your variables cannot be raised to a negative power, okay? So those are your nots. And the last thing it cannot be raised to a fraction exponent. So you can't have any square roots, okay? So no radicals, okay? So you can't have, so no radicals and no fraction exponents, okay? So those are the things you cannot have to be a polynomial, all right? So an example of a polynomial would be 3x plus 2, 4x cubed plus 2x minus 3. Okay, and you could keep going on. Now, certain polynomials have certain names, okay? And you can name a polynomial based off its terms and based off its degrees. So a polynomial consisting of one term we call a monomial. And I've uploaded a cheat sheet into Canvas so you guys will have this listed out, okay? 2 terms is going to be a binomial. 3 terms is going to be a trinomial, right? And anything more, we just say a polynomial with 4 terms, a polynomial with 5 terms. So, keep writing over here. So when we scroll down, not that far. Whoops. I just want to scroll down a little bit. Okay, not that much. All right, I'll get it in a minute, guys. Stop! We're going to let it think for a minute. It's because of this stupid page. All right, so, dang. Scroll down. Oh my gosh, sometimes this thing has a mind of its own. Okay, so we're going to scroll to here. All right, stay. There we go. We're good. All right, so now we're going to look at this example right here, okay, and it says the polynomial blank has how many terms? Well, a term is broken up by pluses or minuses. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 terms, okay? Now, there are different things that go with a polynomial. So the first term is mighty important. Now, this has to be in standard form. You cannot answer these questions unless you're in standard form. And standard form is big exponent to little exponent. Okay, so see how the cube's first, then squared, then 1, then none. Okay, so you have to put in that order. So the first term is going to be your whatever term is your highest exponent. So my highest exponent here is m cubed. So that's my first term. The coefficient of m squared, we'll go to m squared. Who's the number with m squared? 8, so that's my coefficient. Constant term is the term with no variable. It's going to be 5. Okay? Highest exponent is 3, and the variable is m. Now, I do want to talk about the word leading coefficient. I'm going to add that in here. Your leading coefficient is going to be the number with your first term, your leading term. So who is the coefficient with m cubed? 1. Okay? All right, so I want to identify terms and coefficients in this next section. Okay? So, how many terms does number 1 have? 2. Coefficients, my coefficients are -2 and 100. Next one, how many terms? 3. What are my coefficients? If there's not a coefficient, it's an understood 1. So 1, 4, and 3. Number 3, I have 3 terms again. Now, take the negative. Take the negative with that subtraction. So it's going to be 4, -2, and 5. Okay? All right, let's go down to the next section. And it's going to take us all the way to the bottom for some reason. All right. So this one says, nope. We're doing the same thing. All right. Oh, no, so we got a new definition. So the degree of a term is the highest exponent. All right. It is the biggest exponent. Who's the biggest number? So here my degree is 1. If there's no exponent with the x, it's an understood 1. Now, if there is no variable, your degree is 0. Okay? All right. The degree of a polynomial is also the highest exponent. Well, let's actually change that definition up there. So the degree of a polynomial is the highest exponent. The degree of a term is the exponent because there's only one exponent. Okay, so the degree of a polynomial is the highest exponent. So if you look at this example, who's the highest exponent here? 4. So my degree is 4. Okay, here a polynomial written in standard form means you have your exponents ordered highest to lowest. Okay, your exponents. It's all about the exponents, okay? So here, this is in standard form because it counts down 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay? All right, so let's do some examples, some more examples, okay? So we're going to do this chart. Okay? So I want to know the degree of this polynomial. I want to know number of terms and classify using the number of terms. Okay, so the degree, if there is no variable, it has a degree of 0, and we call that a constant. Okay, so degree of 0 means constant. Number of terms, there's only one term here, so we call that a monomial. Okay, number 2, this one. The degree here, it has a variable with no exponent, so we have that a degree of 1, and we call that a linear polynomial. Okay? Number of terms is still 1, so this is a monomial also. Okay? Next one, the degree. What is the highest exponent here? The highest exponent here is also 1, so we still call that a linear. Number of terms, there are 2 terms, and we call that a binomial. Okay, second one, what's the highest exponent here? It is 2, and we call that a quadratic. There are 2 terms, so that is still a binomial. Next one, the highest exponent is still 2, so we still call that a quadratic. But this one has 3 terms, and we call that a trinomial. Okay, next one, highest exponent is a 3. We call that a cubic. Has 1 term, and we call that a monomial. Next one, the highest exponent here is still 3. Still call it a cubic. This has 2 terms, and we call it a binomial. Last one, if you go any higher than 3, yes, 4 actually does have one. It's called a quartic, and you can go up to a quintic, being 5. So this is the degree of 4. We can call it a quartic. But anything higher than 5, we say it's a 6th degree polynomial, 7th degree polynomial, 25th degree polynomial. But the ones we're mainly going to use are constant, and sometimes we might use quartic. Okay? There is 3 terms here, and that is called a trinomial. All right? So now let's scroll. Go down to the bottom, okay? So, describe why each expression is not a polynomial, all right? This is not a polynomial because that x has a negative exponent. So, this is not a polynomial, excuse me, because variable has a negative exponent. Okay, or the exponent's in the denominator. Okay, this one is not a polynomial. Remember we talked about when we were converting that x to the square root is really x to the 1/2. So it's not a polynomial because it has a rational exponent. Okay, so those are ones that are not polynomials. Rational exponents and negative exponents, okay? Now, you do have a delta math that I just want to do one example with you on because it's a bunch of drop-down menus, and I want to make sure you can do this one right, okay? So this is a polynomial vocabulary, okay? And you need to fill in these blanks right here, all right? So this expression represents, all right, so these are your degrees right here. So what's the highest exponent? My highest exponent is a 2, so this is a quadratic. How many terms does it have? Well, 1, 2, okay? The constant term. The constant term is, maybe I should do this with a screenshot so we can write on it. Let me write on this, okay? So I can, so you can see this, okay? And I might upload this. All right, this right here is the degree, okay? Highest exponent. This, how many terms, okay? We've been over that, so I don't feel like there's an easier way to say that. How many terms? This right here, the constant term. Your constant term is the term with no variable. So my constant term is going to be the 10. The leading term is the term with highest exponent. Okay, so the leading term is going to be right here, and you're going to literally write x squared divided by 6. The leading term's coefficient. When you are dividing by a number, you can rewrite it and pull it out, and that's really 1/6 x squared. So my leading coefficient is 1/6. Your leading coefficient is the number with highest exponent. Okay? All right, so I go back. I'm going to fill this in. So the constant term, that's going to be x squared. I need to pull up the keyboard. There is no keyboard. So we're going to say x. So the constant, oh, this is the constant term. The constant term is 10. Whoops. The leading term is x squared. To do a squared, you have to do the shift caret. So shift, it's not here. My keyboard's different than y'all's. That's not letting me go over. Let's see here. So the leading term is x squared divided by 6. I can't remember how I did this. X squared divided by 6. There, we'll see what it does. And the leading coefficient is the number in front of it, which is 1/6. Submit answer. It's probably going to be wrong because my keyboard won't let me do it, but your keyboard will. You just hit X. You just hit shift caret. So shift 6 would have done it, but I don't have my keyboard attached. Okay, so that's how you do that one. All right. Let's see. Your other one is going to be rewriting in standard form. Rewriting in standard form just means to put your highest exponent first. Again, it's not going to let me type it in, so I'm just going to write it over here. Okay. So when I write this in standard form, it's highest exponent to lowest exponent. Okay. So my highest exponent is this one. So I'm going to say x to the 5th divided by 9. All right, let's do the next one. It's going to be this one. So it's going to be minus x to the 4th. Next one is going to be minus 4x. And then plus 1. And that's in standard form. Okay, so highest exponent to lowest exponent. Okay. And then your last one is going to be classifying polynomials that you have to do for me. So this given expression, so 10p squared, what kind of polynomial is that one? Or does it represent a polynomial or does it not represent a polynomial? Well, there's no negative exponent, no rational exponent, nothing, no variable in the denominator, so this one does represent a polynomial. The polynomial is one term, so it's a monomial, and it has a degree of highest exponent, which will be 2. Okay, let's do a new one. So this one, given the expression, is it a polynomial? It is, because there's no negative exponents, no rational exponents. The polynomial, there are 2 terms, so it's a binomial. The degree highest exponent, which is going to be 5. Let's do one that's not. This one's a polynomial, okay, even though it has multiple variables, so this one is a polynomial. The polynomial has 1, 2, 3 terms. Now, highest exponent here, you have to add these exponents. So the highest exponent is going to be is going to be, I have an adding issue. So this one will be a degree of 2, this one's a degree of 4, this one's a degree of 8. So if it has multiple variables, you just have to add up the exponents. So that would be a degree of 8. Okay? I'm going to do one that's not a polynomial. All right. Do you see how that has a negative exponent right there? This is not a polynomial, and you don't have to do anything else because it's not a polynomial. Okay? All right, so that is it for the introduction into polynomials. Let me know if you have any more questions. I can do little videos if you need me to. All right? And make sure you use the polynomial cheat sheet that I've uploaded into Canvas. That'll help you out while you're doing this Delta math.